All right, the next phase of the project is to take this impeccably masked bird and turn it into this stained glass effect. And we're going to start things off using one of Photoshop's built-in filters, which goes by the name stained glass. And so, just to make sure I don't mess things up, I'll switch back to my rectangular marquee tool, and then I'll switch back to my document in progress, and I'll jump a copy of this bird, not by pressing Control-J or Command-J on a Mac, because that'll create a duplicate layer with the exact same name. So I'll just go ahead and undo that. Rather, I'll press the shortcut Control-Alt-J or Command-Option-J on the Mac, which forces the display of the new layer dialog box, at which point I can name this layer Effect and click OK. Now that you want to make sure the layer itself is selected, so if you see a double border around the layer mask, just go ahead and click on the thumbnail for the bird. Then make sure you're working with the default foreground and background colors, either by clicking on this tiny default icon, or you can just press the D key, D being for default. And that'll ensure that we get black lines around our areas of stained glass. Now go up to the filter menu and choose the filter gallery. And that'll bring up the enormous filter gallery dialog box, at which point you might want to zoom out so that you can see the entire bird, and you do that by clicking on this little minus icon in the bottom left corner of the window. Then twirl close whatever folder is open and twirl open this texture folder, which reveals a number of texturizing filters, including stained glass. And then go ahead and click on it. Now, notice these various options right here. Cell size is going to change the size of the areas of stained glass. Border thickness is going to make those black borders either thicker or thinner. And then light intensity creates a kind of light glow in the center of the effect. I don't want that bright glow, so I'll just go ahead and crank that light intensity value down to 0. Then I came up with a border thickness of 6 and a cell size of 34. After which point, I'll go ahead and click OK in order to accept that effect. Now, a couple of things. First of all, we want to make sure that this cell right here is surrounding the eye. And to see if that's the case, just go ahead and tap the 5 key to reduce the opacity of the layer to 50%, at which point we'll see that the eye is not quite centered. Also note that we have a very dark effect, especially around the bird's face, which is not what we want. I'll go to the window menu and choose the history command to bring up the history panel here, and then I'll click on layer via copy in order to backstep a couple of operations, and then I'll go ahead and hide the history panel. And so the first thing we want to do is brighten this layer, and we're going to do that by going up to the image menu, choosing adjustments, and choosing the brightness contrast command. And we have to apply a static modification because we're going to heap a filtering effect on top of this. Next, what you want to do is turn on the Use Legacy checkbox, and then go ahead and crank the brightness value up to 100%. Now, that does a real number on the bird, as you can see here. It brightens the heck out of it, and it clips a lot of whites as well, which is why you don't typically turn on this checkbox. However, for this effect, it's going to work out nicely because it's going to provide a lot of contrast between the bright cells and the black borders in the very next step. All right, so I'll go ahead and click OK to accept that change. And then you want to go ahead and lower the opacity of this layer in advance by pressing the 5 key once again. And notice our opacity value in the layers panel is now 50%. And then you want to go up to the filter menu and choose that first command, Filter Gallery, which is going to repeat your last settings. You also have a new keyboard shortcut, notice that, of Control-Alt-F here on the PC or Command-Option-F on the Mac. And so if you either choose the command or press that keyboard shortcut, you're going to reapply the filter. Now, you may wonder why in the world we would want to reapply the exact same settings. And that's because stained glass is a random filter, meaning that you're going to get a different effect every time. And so in my case, the eye is pretty much inside the cell, but not entirely. I want to really nail this effect. So I'll press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo the filter, and then I'll reapply it by pressing Control-Alt-F or Command-Option-F on the Mac. And you can see we now get a different effect. It's still not what I want, so I'll press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac, then Control-Alt-F or Command-Option-F on the Mac. And you may have to do this many times before you get it right. And so I'm going to undo and then reapply. That's almost right, but not quite. Undo, reapply, undo, reapply. So over and over again. And just to remind you, the keyboard shortcuts are Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac to undo, and Control-Alt-F or Command-Option-F to redo. And at this point, I've got an effect that I think looks pretty good. Notice the eye is more or less centered inside of that cell, at which point I'll go ahead and zoom out by pressing Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac, and then I'll press the 0 key to increase the opacity of this layer to 100%. Finally, I want to apply a black stroke around this layer, and I'm going to do that by dropping down to the FX icon at the bottom of the Layers panel, clicking on it, and choosing Stroke to bring up the Layer Style dialog box. Now, we want the color to be black, so I'll go ahead and click on this color swatch in order to bring up the Color Picker dialog box, and then I'll drag this circle to the bottom left corner of this hue field, and then I'll click OK. And then we're looking for an opacity value of 100%. A blend mode of normal is going to work out just fine, so your settings and my settings may differ initially. But these are the ultimate settings that we're looking for. You want the size value to be 6 pixels. And then notice if I change the position here to inside, we have very little in the way of stained glass showing up inside the beak, which is why I changed that position to outside instead. And then once you get these settings, so size of 6, position outside, blend mode normal, opacity 100%, and a color of black, go ahead and click OK in order to accept that change. All right, now the problem with what we're seeing here is that the stained glass filter, much like the other Photoshop filters that are named after artistic effects, doesn't really produce a stained glass effect all by itself. Also notice, thanks to the soft edges associated with our mask, we have some gooey stroke effect around the feathers and the tail. And I'm going to show you how to solve both those problems so that we end up with this credible effect starting in the next movie.